Welcome into another episode of the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast on Sports Illustrated. I'm your host, Tom Cavanaugh from the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow myself at TCAP30 on Twitter/X. Follow our insider pages at Rams Insider on SI, both on Twitter/X and Facebook. Today, we're going to be looking around the NFC West at injury reports, and then we're also going to talk about one key factor that will lead to the Rams' success, something that they have struggled to be able to stop over the last couple of weeks, facing some pretty darn good teams over the course of the season and still to come. They got the Bills this week, so it's going to be an even tougher task. First, we'll start with the San Francisco. Actually, no, we'll start with the Rams because they are not too limited. When you look up and down, there's a fair amount of guys that are listed on the injury report. Demarcus Robinson, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, those type of guys. They're all likely going to play. They have been full participants in practice the last couple days. Those are just three big offensive names. The two that we really need to look out for, besides KT Leviston, offensive lineman, he has been ruled out with an ankle injury. Tyler Higbee as well. They spoke about possibly bringing him back this week, but it doesn't look likely. Obviously, I mean, he's listed as out. They need him another week to get fully healthy. If he blew up his knee last year in a wild card game against the Lions. But other than that, I mean, there's two guys that are questionable. Rob Havenstein, he's been resting pretty much this week. He's technically on the report, but he'll play. But Alaric Jackson, offensive lineman, and outside linebacker Jared Verse. Both of them were limited participants in practice, and they are questionable. Now, extremely pivotal pieces on both sides of the ball. Jackson, a starting lineman. You need him to continue to keep a strong offensive line. It's been very inconsistent. I mean, flip a coin, and whichever side comes up 50-50, you're going to get either a 4 or 5 sack game from this offensive line, or they're going to be strong and keep that defense out. Now, for Verse, he's the odds-on favorite to be the defensive rookie of the year. Losing him is huge. I mean, massive. So if Verse doesn't play, you lose a key piece in your defensive secondary there that rushes the passer well. I mean, God, he's got the incompletion on Derek Carr that was arguably a fumble at the end of the game against the Saints last week. Guy's got over 6 or 5.5 sacks this year. He's just a dog. And Verse, if he's not able to play, it would be a huge hit to the defense for the Rams, who will absolutely need him against yet another strong running back. We'll move over to the San Francisco 49ers now, the lowest team, the last team in the conference at 5-7. They're continuing to be injured, man. I mean, I can just read off names. Nick Bosa's doubtful. Trent Williams, the offensive tackle, he's out. Dre Greenlaw, the linebacker, out. Jordan Mason, the running back, out. Christian McCaffrey, he's been shut down for the year. Talanoa Hauafunga, safety, questionable. I mean, this is incredible. Every impact player on this team. Charvarius Ward did not play. Personal matter. Not sure if he's going to play this week either. Another key piece as a cornerback, sorry. It's absolutely incredible. Diamador Lenore looks to be healthier. He practiced the last 2 days. They haven't ruled him out or in. He's not questionable either, so I guarantee you he'll play. Brock Purdy will play, even though he's listed on here with a shoulder injury. It's wild just to see how many injuries the Niners have. But at the same time, they're not the most injured NFC team, even with all of their big-time injuries. They'll be taking on a Bears team that is also fairly banged up. Roschon Johnson, the running back, he'll be out. DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift, the wide receiver RB combo, both with quad injuries. They're questionable. Ryan Bates, the offensive tackle, he's got a concussion. Keenan Allen should play as well. So we'll look around. I mean, I think that the Bears probably win this game just because of where the Niners season has been heading and also because of all the injuries. But we'll see. I don't expect Bosa to play once again, especially because they're not even close to making a playoff race. In the graphic, they're in the hunt, but in reality, I don't see them having any real shot of making a playoff push, especially with all the injuries. So that's it on the Niners. We'll move over to Seattle, the number 1 team in the division. They don't have many injuries. I mean, they got a lot of guys on the list here. They probably have, 4 or 5 questionable right now. Multiple unspecified. I'm sorry, they have 4 or 5 unspecified and only 2 questionable. One has been ruled out. Stone Forsythe, the tackle, he's a backup. He's going to be ruled out for the second straight week. They'll be okay from that perspective. Jaron Reed, nose tackle, he is unspecified to play or not. He's just resting. Brady Russell, the backup tight end, unspecified. He's been a limited participant. The big name, though, that's coming out of this, actually three big names now that I look up and down. There's probably 20 people on this list, by the way. When you look up and down, Kenneth Walker, the third, the running back, top running back for the Seahawks, did not practice the last 2 days. He's got an ankle and a calf issue. He's questionable. That would be a major loss for the Seahawks, who are playing in a divisional game. If the Seahawks win this, they'll be 8-5, and they'll take full control of the division. Zach Charbonnet, the other running back for Seattle, he is unspecified. Now, the good thing is for Charbonnet, he's been a full participant in practice all week long, dealing with an elbow injury. I'd expect him to play. If Walker can't go, Charbonnet is going to be the number one in the backfield. And then the third guy is Noah Fant, who is also unspecified. He's got a groin injury, number one tight end for the Seahawks. Full participant in practice, kind of the same as Charbonnet. Unspecified currently. I think they both play. If Walker doesn't go, that's a big hit offensively, but still, I think they'll be able to be serviceable enough with Geno Smith passing often and getting Charbonnet his fair amount of carries. Finally, we'll wrap up with the Arizona Cardinals, who are probably the least banged up team in the division. There's just some names here. A couple guys that, you look, there's two questionable and one out. Dante Stills, defensive lineman's got a back issue. He was a limited participant all week. Questionable. Naquan Jones did not practice on Wednesday. Naquan's a great defensive lineman. Spent time in Tennessee. Also went to Michigan State University. Left limited practice on Thursday and Friday. He's questionable as well. And then Elijah Jones, the cornerback, he's got an ankle. He has been listed as out even after being a limited participant. So sometimes you never really know. I mean, you see Elijah Jones, limited, out. You got Naquan, limited, questionable. So it's going to be up in the air, probably a few hours before game time, before this Cardinals team gets to see if those guys can go. Naquan Jones is a big miss if he does not play. Same thing as well with Dante Stills on the defensive line. Both those guys, big impact players. So when you look at it, I think Arizona is definitely more healthy than Seattle, but this is a huge game for Arizona to be able to come out, get a big win, bring themselves to 7-6, make the Seahawks fall to 7-6 themselves, and if the Rams are able to pull off a win against Buffalo, all three teams will be tied at first place. It'll be quite a finish in the division. That's also wishful thinking, but I got a good feeling Arizona gets it done at home. Finally, we're going to wrap up with one key for the Rams to stop the Bills, and it's something they've dealt with over the last couple of weeks. Last week, they saw Alvin Kamara in the running back position go for 117 yards. 2 weeks ago, they saw Saquon Barkley go for 255 yards and a couple of scores. You got to have a high emphasis this week on stopping the run and figuring out how to limit one of the top rushers in James Cook for the Bills. They have not been able to hold either Barkley and Kamara, two of the top backs in the NFL, to under 100 yards. Now, it's tough to do, obviously, because they're so darn good, but got to scheme it up. Got to find a way. I mean, we saw, if you watched Thursday Night Football earlier this week, the Packers defense was incredible. I mean, they held both Montgomery and Gibbs, who are amongst two of the best in the league as well, under 60 yards. So being able to find a way for this Rams defense, now they got to have Verse. He's going to be a huge help in stopping Cook. But you look up and down the numbers for James Cook this season. I mean, he's coming off a game of 100 yards, 107 yards on just 14 carries, averaging 7.5 with a touchdown. He has scored 11 times. He's averaging almost 5 yards a carry, 703 yards total on the season. I mean, the guy gets the ball and gets downfield. He's had a couple of 100-yard games. He's averaging around, I'd say, probably 50 to 60 yards. And if you can keep him at that number and not allow him to go crazy for 80, 90, 100 yards, Rams will be in good shape. Because when you look at the Bills, I mean, yeah, you got Josh Allen who can run the football. Khalil Shakir is really the only player that is, or only receiver, I should say, that's a major threat. You got Dalton Kincaid as well, but I feel like Christian Roseboom, Verse if he plays, Omar Spates, a lot of these guys can figure out a way to limit that tight end position and worry about handling the wide receivers. You stop Cook, that completely handcuffs this Bills offense. even though they're one of the best in the league. They're second in scoring, putting up just over 29.5 points per game. But that's where you start. You start on the ground, figure out how to bottle up Cook, and you go from there. This has been the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. We're going to get you more tomorrow, break down the Bills injury report, and then just a few more keys to the game as we get set for this Sunday afternoon matchup at SoFi Stadium between the 6-6 Rams and the 10-2 Buffalo Bills. Thanks so much, everybody. We will see you again next time.